This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
I'm not sure there's ever been a better day in bumper-to-bumper history than for getting a few callbacks going. So if you have, or talkbacks, I guess, you got up to 30 seconds to vent, and you can vent, obviously, on the A sports topic of the day, as we started the show with the news that the Pohlads, in this case, Joe Pohlad, confirming that we're going to bring on some limited partners or some minority partners, but we're tickled pink to say we're going to stay in charge of your Minnesota Twins. Today might well be the day to do it. Bonus Lavelle today. I had a couple of people go, wait a minute, is it Friday? Because I'd mentioned Lavelle at 4:30. Yes, this is bonus Lavelle. I didn't think we could wait for all the obvious reasons. So he's going to join at 4:30 today. We're not at Vikings practice, not because we didn't want to be, the joint practices with the Patriots, but because they changed the schedule so dramatically that there really wasn't going to be much left to see or do or anybody to talk to. So we will not be at camp today, or we weren't today, won't be tomorrow. And I think we're back at camp on Monday. But if you were a rube who showed up and you have an interesting impression from what took place, because I assume we're done, well done by now.
Yes.
For hours.
They ended about 2.
At 2 o'clock. You can do the same thing. You can do the talkback line, or you can text us the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line at 64686.
We know you were there, too, because it was standing room only. I mean, these days have been sold out.
Absolutely.
People were fired up to be there.
Yeah, now who's the Patriots head coach?
Mike Vrabel.
Did Vrabel get into any tussle with anybody?
Doesn't look like it.
Like to confirm his reputation as tough guy?
I don't think there's any Vrabel blood on the field anywhere.
Has anybody offered a report card at various positions for how we did?
I can read you one Alec Lewis tweet. Fun practice today. Watched the offense mostly. Thought J.J. McCarthy was dialed in the early 7-on-7 period, but sailed a pass to Jalen Naylor, but for a sailed pass to Jalen Naylor. Effective 2-minute drill with very nice fourth down conversions. Full thoughts coming this afternoon on The Athletic.
Oh, interesting. The only highlight I saw was another dime from Brosmer Brownstones.
I had to go back and watch and make sure it wasn't the same throw from a couple of days ago, yes. And that I wasn't being punked. The one that
Seifert dismissed,
exactly,
as being no big deal.
Exactly,
yeah.
But it was a different throw.
It was,
I heard it listening to Tenna and Rosie on my way back to the office this afternoon. I heard them, and you could hear the crowd in the background.
Deep throw, yeah, it was very nice.
That's what he does.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Apparently, the big highlight was Donovan Jackson, our new guard, basically obliterating multiple Patriots on the way to an Aaron Jones 60-plus yard screen pass touchdown.
Nice.
So that was the big highlight.
Was our defense good? That's all I care about. I'm tired of talking about the quarterback.
I'm only getting
our defense is.
I'm only reading offensive ones right now.
Well, so they got to remember that defense still wins championships.
The one clip I did see was Diggsy just absolutely cooking our guy Jeff Okudah. It almost looked like Okudah was just like
candy from a baby.
I don't even know if he was supposed to be out there.
Oh,
because Diggsy's good, but he had him in a blender.
Did he really?
Yeah, it was not great. Not a great rep, as they say.
He's being used as our third guy, kind of our nickel guy, correct?
Probably. They're trying to find a good spot for him because of the talent and the pedigree and the belief in him.
Yeah. As I said, Lavelle on the Twins developments, he's got a lot of explaining to do. It's not the first time he's been in that position on this show, but there are people who've speculated, well, maybe this is just the first step, a la, bringing in other owners, a la what Glenn Taylor did with Lori and A-Rod, and that it still is very possible that down the road, someone else would own the team. You can't rule that out completely. The problem is I just don't think the analogy holds up, because in the case of the Wolves deal, it was in place from the beginning. In other words, if
they had the buyers,
you're going to announce it that, okay, after whatever, 3 years, we will become, if we can handle the finances, the majority owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's not being presented that way now. In fact, this is another thing that's so ham-handed about this organization. Presumably, those other owners added to the mix, and I think there's supposed to be a local component in at least one of the two, correct?
One of them, I think, yes. And the other one's East Coast.
Okay. It sounds like it's done, right? So doesn't it make, again, more business, not to mention public relations sense, that if you're going to do the 180, if you're going to do the Sirwanga backpedal on your decision to sell and to be out of this thing, that you can at least present, well, here are the names of the new individuals, part of our new master plan to get us on the straight and narrow in the right direction. It's like, why make the announcement the way you did it? If you want to present it the way Joe Pohlad is this is a big moment and we've got some good people and we're all on the same page, identify them. Makes no sense to me. Or if it's not quite done yet, then don't put out this press release now either. Did you have to do that now? You didn't have to.
I don't think you did, unless they just wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and say, this is what we've decided. Maybe they didn't want it to leak.
They have no PR sense whatsoever.
What I want to know, because I think what I most want to know, because believe it or not, I'm kind of zagging on the being completely offended by the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But my caveat is I want to know who's out and I want to know who's in terms of the limited partners. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know, because there's also been this sense that Joe Pohlad never wanted to sell the team, and he was getting so much heat from multiple other Pohlads that didn't really care about it and were tired of being in debt from whatever it was and said, let's not do this anymore. So I want to know, are those people out? Because they obviously had loud voices. I don't think it was all just coming from Joe. And I want to know who's in, and are those people comfortable with actually moving the team forward as opposed to right-sizing everything?
Well, but for me, it doesn't matter because of who's still in charge, and I have no faith in Joe. Remember, Joe is the guy who said, now you could say, well, he was just the spokesperson. He's the guy that went with, presumably he's the guy running it. So that must mean no one could convince him, or he didn't want to be convinced, that the worst business decision you could make, regardless of the money lost from TV, was to slash $30 million at that point. So if that same guy is still in charge, I don't care who's in or who's out if he's still the voice. Now, if you're telling me, well, maybe Joe, if some of the other family members who are kind of a drag on this whole thing are out of the way and aren't whining about it anymore, that suddenly Joe's going to get religion and say, by God, you know what? Instead of, right-sizing, slashing 30, we're going to add 60.
Yeah.
I just have to see that to believe it.
I'm assuming good intent.
Well, that's
I'm assuming good intent from yesterday. That's what I'm doing. I'm assuming good Joe Pohlad intent. But like I said, I do, to your point, want to know who else is involved here, because limited partners, I do think, matter more than ever now, because they are.
Yeah, but they're still in charge.
No, I understand. But like we talk about the Bloomberg money coming in for A-Rod and Lori, right?
Yes.
Like we think that represents something big for them, right? That in the interim of having the team almost taken from them, they allegedly got Michael Bloomberg on board,
right? Yeah,
which can't do anything but help, right? Because that guy's got endless money, and hopefully they can tap into it. Of course, there's still one guy that has to answer for everything, and he hasn't done a very good job of that, whether it was his message or the family message or the whole group's message, whatever. If he was just the person that they had to trot out there, whatever it was, I do want to know. I think we do deserve a little bit more info if this is what the resolution is.
Which is another reason, if you want to assume good intent like you are, to not make this announcement until you can identify those individuals. It's just bizarre.
Exactly. That part would have been helpful. Yeah.
One way or another, it's not good for MLB. They can't get $1.7 billion. Well, see, I have a hard time even accepting that. The Tampa Rays, didn't they just get sold for $1.7 billion?
I believe so. Yeah.
So you're going to tell me, now again, they've been a good franchise, right? But aren't they like in baseball arena ballpark hell? Their fan base isn't so. The idea that, well, this isn't anything the Pohlad screwed up. It's just baseball, because of the economic model. You can't get any buyers. How does that explain Tampa Bay?
Maybe they think they're going to get a new stadium, and that's going to help them.
Yeah. Well, we already have ours, though. That's the point. We still have a state-of-the-art ballpark by all accounts. So that should be built in.
It was also a Florida guy, right, that bought the Rays.
That's
it was
true.
a big
Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Florida guy that there was probably some.
Your guy, Patrick Zalupski.
There you go. So, because I'm remembering this kind of on the fly now. So that's.
Well, I keep hearing, by the way, it's not the local name is not Marty Davis.
And it's not Glenn Taylor either, because we're getting that all the time, too.
So I don't know who that leaves. I mean, I have no idea. You know your billionaires in this town more than I do. They all live in Edina.
I just read a story today that Kathy Cargill's starting to sell off some of the Duluth, Park Point Beach stuff that she bought all that stuff.
I do.
There was a story in the Minnesota Star Tribune today that she's starting to sell back some of that stuff.
So does that mean she's the likely suspect?
I'm not saying. I'm just putting that out there. That's another billionaire family.
Has anybody asked, I don't know how long the conversation went with Star Tribune with Joe, that even if you have the best intentions at this point, how do you possibly think this can be sold? Even if you think you've been unfairly savaged, right? How do you think you can paper this over and that people are going to go, oh, yeah, you know what? Let's let bygones be bygones. I'm going to assume positive intent.
Mm-hmm.
You just shake your head. No, because as I understand it, nobody forced them in the first place to say, you know what, we're putting this on the market. Right?
No, it was their family decision.
The whole thing is just, it's about as pear-shaped as one can get. So we'll get Lavelle going. There's one guy says, don't put Lavelle on. All it's going to do is make me mad. So, we got to do what we got to do. Has Lavelle tweeted any of this? Has he even acknowledged it? I'm going to get him going on again. He's all excited about our minor league system ranking now, post-trade. So what? What's that going to buy? And again, if you're Joe Pohlad, what's the new vision? Is the new vision, it can't be, by God, 2026, we're back recommitted, because you just basically made a series of moves that said, we're back in a rebuilding program and we're trying to build silver linings for 2027 or 28. You know what I'm saying? So you can't sell it. I mean, you can't sell it any other way at this point, having decimated the bullpen.
Maybe this is the offseason where they spend a bunch of money.
I can't wait for Lavelle, the Twins lick spittle. He's next. Already pouring in via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Why even bother with Lavelle? He's just a Pohlad puppet. Lick spittle. Explain this term. Where was the other one to get to? In regards to the Twins, your current guest should now be referred to as Lavacillator. Respectfully, the photo ball guy. They're on you, Lavelle. They're already anticipating what they assume is going to be an effort to justify the Pohlad 180, I guess you could say Sirwanga backpedal by your favorite guy, Joe Pohlad. Will you plead guilty or not guilty to that charge?
What am I being charged with? This is a Pohlad thing, isn't it?
Being the Twins and the Pohlad puppet, that you're going to spin this in a way that say, you know what, this makes sense. I understand exactly what he's doing here, and I don't know why people are bothered by it.
I'm writing a column that's going to run tomorrow morning, saying they should have got out when they had the chance.
No, that's very different. Okay, are you sure you're going to write it? Are you sure between now and then one of the Pohlads or somebody else spinning it for them aren't going to get to you, and you go, I guess I hadn't thought of it that way, and before you know it, you're vacillating again?
They've never reached out to me like that. Oh. They don't think any of them have my number. I think Jim may have my number. He might, but that's never happened. So, and apparently this came came together pretty quick. I was telling Guardsy, like maybe in the last week or so, that this deal kind of fell into place, because a week ago when I was on with you, I still had every belief that they were going to have a new owner, and we would know the name of that person by the end of the regular season, and they'd get it wrapped up. But apparently, this option presented itself. Joe gets to keep the team. I don't know how the other 6 grandkids of Carl and Eloise Pohlad feel about this. I don't know how much the investors are contributing. I'm curious I don't know if we'll ever find out that number, but it definitely helps pay down some of that $400 million in debt that they're carrying. But as I point out tomorrow, this creates many more questions than answers. And my first question to the family is like, why didn't you get out when you had a chance? I would have waited this out and waited to get the number and then sold the team. Yeah. I would have done that. I mean, after everything that they've been going through the years and trying and me and they probably meant well, but it hasn't worked out. And then after 2023, when they beat the Blue Jays, they had a chance to make a push there, and he went out the other way. And that's when I was like, man, you had the fan base back. They were coming back, and they lost them over the next 2 years. So I just think that this would have been a good time for them to, say, hey, it's been a great run. We're going to cash out and let somebody else kind of handle this.
Why do you think they didn't?
I think Joe really loves baseball, and I think he really wants to give baseball a go, and he thinks he could bring a winner to town and somehow make it profitable. I don't know, man. I'm sitting here playing with numbers. I'm thinking for the Twins to avoid mounting up $400 million in losses, they probably need to bring in somewhere between 2.2 and 2.5 million fans a year. So that's a little bit of a challenge there. A lot of teams can't consistently bring that many people in. There's some rarities out there. I can't believe the Colorado Rockies are like 15th in attendance, and they may be one of the worst run franchises in all professional sports. But if the Twins could put together a consistent winner here and make a run and then add instead of subtracting, I think that would do a lot for their status here, and it'll probably help the bottom line.
Well, I'll ask it this way then. Let's say, because I know the question I just asked you is kind of unanswerable at this point, and maybe at some point it will be, but it strains credulity to, knowing whether Joe thinks it's fair or not, what the perception of the family name is in this town when it comes to sports ownership. That's what he's facing right now. That's the reality of it. And knowing that, so what you do, as you know, is this is the one move the Pohlads have made that actually, or announcement when it came to we're going to sell, that was raising hopes, right? It was the only time. So if in the end, what you really prefer deep down was bring in some other limited partners, maybe if it is something like shedding some of the other Pohlad family members who don't want into this, why wouldn't you not have made that your goal from the beginning? Because if you announce what he announced originally, you know what that's going to do to a fan base that can't stand you.
Yeah, and you're right there. And the other thing, as soon as they said that, all the people heard was the team's going to be sold. And that's what they heard.
Including you.
They did come out and say, now, we could end up keeping a team.
Right.
But that went through one ear out the other since they said
exactly
exploring a sale. And they got everybody anticipating for the disgruntled wing of the Twins territory. It got people hoping and preparing to celebrate the team being sold. And look what happened. It was not sold. And let's not forget, reportedly they did turn down an offer. It wasn't at the number they wanted a couple months ago. So they could have just said, we're just going to take it to cash out now. They didn't. So that's leading to another conspiracy, Dan. Someone's already thrown it at me today about they were never going to sell the team anyway.
Yeah.
And which I kind of find hard to believe, especially the way they behaved at the trade deadline.
Yep.
And it seems like no one wants to take responsibility for authorizing that sale Joe Pohlad said it wasn't his idea. Falvey has said it's not his idea. So I wonder if it was one of his cousins or someone else in the wing of the family that said, we want the payroll cut so we can save some money.
Well, what you're back to, and again, a lot of these conspiracy theories end up being nonsense, but let's play that one out. Let's say you want to kind of believe it. I'll say the obvious again, that if ultimately what you really wanted to do was not sell it, then the dumbest thing strategically from a public relations standpoint you can do is to raise the specter of it's for sale. Again,
I know.
Knowing how people are going to respond to you and then pulling it back as part of the conspiracy, it's not even logical as a strategy.
No, it isn't. It isn't. That's like the worst optics ever, the worst PR ever.
Hell, the commissioner said they were going to. So what was it, about a month ago at the All-Star break? The commissioner said, "Don't listen to anybody else. I know what's going to happen here." So somebody should get to the bottom of what he thought he knew and what changed since then, right?
Yeah. So don't jump on me for saying what I said about the team being sold. Manfred got up there and said he expected a transaction. So I thought things were down the road at that point for him to speak like that about a potential sale. So it'll be fascinating if someone could find out exactly what went on behind the scenes for this. I wouldn't say it's a full pivot, but it's a partial pivot here, or just a boomerang to come back to where they're at and still have the team.
Yeah. So I think this has already been written somewhere. Maybe it was the Star Tribune, Athletic, that these other partners coming in that will be minority owners, that there is a local component and then an East Coast component. Correct? Do we know?
That's what we reported. Okay. That's what Joe Pohlad told Phil Miller that in the story that's on the line on our website.
All right. So do we know? And that's the other thing. If you're going to do it this way, why would you not wait to make this announcement till when you could name those individuals? Then you present it. It's not going to make people feel that much better, but then you present it as, okay, here's what we got. Why would you take this step to do a press release now without naming those individuals? I mean, even that as a strategy, to me, just seems incredibly ham-handed. You're giving yourself no chance to get maybe anything positive going because you're doing it halfway.
It would have been nice if they could have also introduced those people today. That may have lessened the blow a little bit. If you found out it was someone, I don't know who it is.
Right,
I don't know.
Right.
I'm just saying, if it was someone like, Jim Hayes was rumored, early in the process. Marty Davis was rumored early in the process. Is there a Twins player involved? That would have been nice to know. I did call the league office. I called the New York office today just to try to get some clarity on something. They expect, because they're doing due diligence now, they're checking the financial background of the two limited partners.
Right.
And they're checking to see if they've committed any crimes, standard stuff. But I asked about when do you think this will get wrapped up? They said after the end of the season. And I said, what about end of the calendar year? They said, they definitely want to beat the end of the calendar year. So, I don't know what the end of the regular season or postseason or what, but I'm guessing based on the way they were talking, I'm guessing mid-October, November maybe we'll know. So they could have waited a few more weeks. Exactly. Just to let this process get down the pike here, at least to the point where they would have been comfortable revealing names.
Yeah,
maybe because it could be someone cool, it could be someone famous,
Well, that's the point. If it is,
what if it's Kevin Garnett? That would have totally changed everybody's thoughts.
Well, it would at least give people a little bit of pause, and at least something else to think about.
Yeah.
Let's get caught up. I got to get caught up on my breaks. I got more with Lavelle. A lot of good texts coming in. A lot more ground to cover with him. Kessler will join in studio as well at 5:30. Very down that he was passed over for two significant jobs outside the world of sports. We'll get to that with him at about 5. Part 2 with Lavelle, Top 5 at 5, yet to come today with some details on the Vikings-Patriots joint practice, day 1 of 2 at TCO Performance Center. And then, as I mentioned, Kessler will join at 5:30 this evening. I guess I got to get Lavelle back on the line. Are there any other juicy theories, opinions that you've heard since the announcement came down that you think, or give us some clue as to why they would end up in this place rather than actually owning it? Because, one of the theories, again, is you get maybe the Pohlads who don't want to be in on this, you get them out, and Joe really wants to be in on it. And then what I think Gardsey trying to follow the path of positive intent, is that what it was from yesterday?
Assuming positive
intent is that then this maybe this liberates Joe, that Joe all along wanted to spend more, but couldn't with the debt and with other circumstances and family members saying, putting a drag on everything. Is there any reason to believe that's the case, that could be what's eventually happening here or going to happen here?
First of all, while I was on break, I was thinking about this, and we'll probably know the identities of the partners, I think, sooner than later, because we're at the stage now where once it gets to the league office, usually someone from the commissioner's office calls one of the national ball guys and whispers sweet nothings into his ear, and then next thing you know, it's out on Twitter.
Yep.
So I think we may be a couple weeks away from getting some clarity on that. I've not heard any juicy theories as to why this suddenly has happened, only that it's happened suddenly in the last week. And I know the Twins officials I communicated with think that this is the best case scenario. Of course they're going to say that because the new owner was going to come in and probably fire a bunch of people,
Yeah, right.
And so I'm sure there's a lot of people breathing easier over at One Twins way, because there's not going to be a regime change and the resulting
let me give you an example.
The resulting bloodletting.
Let me give you an example. And again, maybe the comeback to this would be, I'm going to get to this in a little more detail once we can name these individuals, once they're vetted. But, to me, again, if you're Joe Pohlad and you want to believe this theory, then and that is that now he actually would be with the financial help he's got here and the people and the family who might be out of this, and this is all speculation at this point because we have no idea who's in, who's out, and that he intends then to be a little bit more aggressive financially. Why don't you say that in the interview with, who was it with today? Was it Nightingale to the Star Trip? No, it was...
he talked to Phil Miller.
With Phil Miller. To me, you say right now, as soon as this goes, you go, look, I know how people feel. I think there's more to the story, but I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to give you a number on a payroll, but I'm going to tell you we are about, with these moves, to engage into a period where we will be far more aggressive financially in what we pursue. I mean, to me, if you're going to try to sell this and you mean that, then you sell it. I'm skeptical because I don't think he means it. I just have any trust in any of these folks at this point based on what we've seen to this point. But wouldn't you get more specific, or at least say to try to reach the public directly that is going to be disappointed because everybody thought the team was actually going to be sold?
Yeah, Joe was not clear when Phil asked him directly about that during his interview. That's up on our website. So, yeah, I think this, like I said, this leads to a lot of different questions because there was a belief out there that if the old Pohlads could not find an owner, a buyer, that there could be more payroll cutting, and that you would see Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan get traded during the offseason and just see this thing completely bottom out. I think one of the things they need to do is make some sort of tangible or come out and communicate and send out a signal about how serious they are of fielding a winner next year. Are they going to make a splashy move? Are they going to sign Joe Ryan to a multi-year contract? How are they going to outfit this ball club? What are their plans? Is this going to be a quick turnaround, or do they need to see some things happen? Really curious to know the percentage of what the limited partners bought in too.
Yes, sure.
If they sold 30% of the team, that's about $550 million. That would wipe out the $400 million in debt and give them a clean slate to start with. No doubt. And could that affect payroll? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I wish they would articulate that. I agree with you on that one because it just leads to a lot of questions about how the team's going to proceed this offseason. The future of Falvey and Rocco, I think, is improved with this development, because I think one of them, or maybe both of them, may have had to look for another job under a new owner. I think Joe may keep up those guys now. What about that? That's a question that needs to be answered too.
Sure.
So, they need to set out a plan of attack and maybe an aggressive, proactive media relations approach to all this as the weeks count down to when this deal is ratified.
Does your phone number end with 57?
No, that's not me.
Because do you classify, is one of your monikers Clear Thinker Guy?
No,
this
not at all.
Just like you. Here's Clear Thinker Guy. It's very easy, Dan, for you to say the Pohlad should lose $60 million to $75 million per year, or sell the club for $200 to $300 million below market value. That's not you. You sure?
That's not me. No,
I can't even fathom these folks whose water they're carrying and what they're conveniently leaving out regarding this particular story and this saga, the way it's played out. It's just mind-boggling to me that folks want to give this organization as many excuses as it does. It's bizarre, but God bless you. If that's what you think, keep carrying the water.
Like I said, once they didn't lean into the success of 2023, that's when I was worried about them ever being in a position to go for it. And I know they're still probably, some of the $400 million is probably COVID-related losses.
Right.
I get that. Every team went through that. Some teams worse than others. The Cubs laid off 100 people. The Pirates didn't contribute to their pension plan. The Twins didn't do that. They kept all their employees. I get that. But once again, scared money don't make money. I just thought that after 2023, if you just add, everybody comes back even more energetic, more fired up. It results in group sales and season ticket sales, which group sales is a great indicator of how your attendance is going to go for the season.
Or how about this? Because even if you don't, why not reward the team that still played as well as it did the first half of last season by giving him more than Trevor Richards at the trade deadline? Right, that was another in an endless array of pieces to this thing that I think make it hard to give the Pohlads any benefit of the doubt.
And Dan, I think that, you see Carlos Correa is tearing it up for the Astros right now.
Yeah, I did see that.
I think after 2023, I bet you he lost some of his mojo. Thinking that he was on a team that was going places, that were doing things, and when they let Sonny Gray walk and traded Jorge Polanco, maybe you started to have doubt about how serious these things were here. And then now, at this trade deadline, once the rumbling started about the Twins making trades, he went in the office and said, "Hey, I'll go back to Houston. I'll waive my no trade to go back to Houston."
One last question. We talked about this earlier. One last item that there's some people who said, well, maybe they couldn't get 1.7. I don't know what they were asking for, but if Tampa Bay can be sold for 1.7, I still have a hard time believing that this is about, well, there was nobody willing to pay the freight. Now, I understand in the case of Florida, it's a Jacksonville guy, so you could say it's a state guy or, semi-local guy, but their ballpark situation has been a mess. Their fan base is not, it's a good team, but their fan base isn't exactly, huge. And so it's hard for me to believe when people say, well, baseball's a mess, so they just can't be sold for 1.7. It just happened with Tampa Bay, did it not?
Yeah, in Baltimore sold for 1.7. Yeah. Also, within the last 5 years, though, both the Angels and the Nationals went on the market and got pulled back off the market. So, but those are definitely larger market teams that would have cost more than $1.7 billion to pull off a transaction for. And yes, baseball is wrecked, and that was one of the reasons I made my column for tomorrow. I was like, you guys had a chance to get out because we don't know if there's going to be baseball after 2026. And you're only who knows what type of television revenue you're getting. And I looked it up. The Dodgers got $197 million in TV revenue in 2023 when the Twins got 54. So there's some challenges definitely, but they can be overcome. They, like I said, they had everything by the tail in 2023 and they let it go. the Twins were we thought they were.
Did the mojo get lost? This is the last item for today. I'm already running a little late, but did the mojo get lost when we went from, hey, one of the Ishbia billionaires, they want it. They're in this, and so the Twins got encouraged through all that, and then obviously Ishbia decided to go a different direction. I don't know if he got scared off here, or was the idea of I'd rather own a team in Chicago, even if I have to wait longer, because that's, I think, several years down the road, waiting for Reinsdorf. So is that what changed? That the mojo all changed because at first we're all fat and flush and happy and saying, man, we got Ishbia, we got all these people, and then the Ishbia thing went away. It was almost like, well, now what are we going to do?
I wonder if the Twins got played. I wonder if Ishbia used the Twins to get Jerry Reinsdorf to pay attention to him. Because he's already owned 5% of the team.
Right, that's true.
But I will say this, though. I know for a fact that Ishbia did super due diligence here, into the Twins. He talked to local leaders. He wanted to know about the political climate. He wanted to know about other business opportunities in town. He wanted to know about how the city's recovered after George Floyd. He wanted to know all that stuff. No, he was very thorough about this. So I don't know if he was doing it as a smokescreen, just to get the White Sox attention or not, but he acted like he was serious. And I also want to point out, it was about three and a half weeks ago that I had a conversation with someone who claimed that an anchor investor had emerged. So I don't know what happened to the anchor investor. I'd like to find out that one as we move forward here.
Yeah. All right. So you're in tomorrow, and the column's in tomorrow. We'll read you, and we'll talk again on Friday. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate the extra time. Lavelle Neal III, kind enough to help us out. Bonus day for Lavelle. Kessler is already in the house. He will join at about 5:30. We'll find out. Maybe he's one of the, there's a local group, that minority group, not going to be majority owners, but minority owners. Maybe Kessler's in there with Maurer, Torrey Hunter, Marty Davis, Kevin Garnett.
Kathy Cargill.
Who's to say? I'm not exactly sure. But that's coming up in about a half hour. Top 5?
Pohlad's Twins, Vikings camp, and more Wolves schedule nuggets.